In the previous video, we looked at the steps to integrate a vendor's image in the world of EVE-NG. And now in this video, I'd like to walk you through building a topology in EVE-NG that's going to be the framework for our lab environment. So to fully appreciate this and also to replicate it, which is the really important part, I want to share with you behind the scenes what my home network is, or my office network is. My network here in the office is 192.168.1.0. And the default gateway, any guesses? Yeah, the default gateway is at .1 right there. And so when we build the topology, I'm going to make two clouds that represent this management network. And one of them I'm going to name management. And what we'll do is we'll plug the management interface on the Palo Alto devices into that network logically, so they'll be reachable on the 192.168.1 network. For firewall 1, we'll use .11. For firewall 2, we'll use .12. And for the second one, I'm going to go ahead and call it internet. And you may think, well, Keith, it's not really the internet. It's like 192.168.1. Why are you calling it internet? And the answer is because off of that 192.168.1 network, I've got a default gateway that's doing PAT that is getting all that traffic off to the real internet. So it'll go something like this. The management interfaces on our firewalls will logically connect to this management cloud. And that way, if we have a computer, in my case, the computer I'm sitting at is also on that 192.168.1 network, then I can have direct access to any of the Palo Alto firewalls that I need to over their management interface. We'll also, when we bring in the panorama, we'll also connect it to the management network. And that way the firewalls and panorama can have connectivity over the management network as well. Also, we're going to create this little pseudo network, little private network here for the lab called the 23.1.2 network. And we're going to plug all of the Palo Alto outside interfaces into it. So this will be 23.1.2. And this guy will be .11, and this guy will be .12. And we'll point to a default gateway of .1, which is this router right here. And there's several ways of pulling off the routing function here as well. We could use a Cisco IOS image here, or Vios, or Juniper, whatever you want. But right here for this routing function, what we need is network address translation, or its little cousin, PAT. And this interface would be connected to our little pseudo network here, the 23.1.2. And then the other interface would be connected to this other cloud called internet. Now I could connect it also just directly to management, but it looks visually better if we connect it to the cloud called internet. That way it visually represents where it's going. So as far as networks, let's go ahead and just put networks over here. We need 23.1.2.0, which is just a cloud in the local lab, a private network. Then we need the 192.168.1 network, which we're going to have two of those. That's the management and internet. We're also going to need networks out here at the client site. So over here, we're going to have 10.1. Over here, we're going to have 10.2. And as a result, we're going to need networks for those as well. 10.1, 10.2. And the reason this is important to plan out is because this is the infrastructure for our lab. So I'll walk you through as we continue these videos. I'll walk you through step by step in deploying each of these components, including these networks. So for the 10.1 network, when we deploy the network here, we can actually change the icon and make it look like a switch. When really it's just a little private network for the 10.1 space, we can change the icon to make it look like a layer 2 switch. And the same thing over here. When we deploy the 10.2 network, we can make it look like a layer 2 switch as well. And then for the clients, there's some great options that we have in EVE-NG. One of them is to use Docker. So the underlying operating system for the EVE-NG lab is Linux. So if you add the Docker ability, and the step-by-step to do that, once again, is at the EVE-NG website, you can then spin up little graphical user interface Linux boxes, courtesy of Docker, which are very lightweight and can do everything we need. They can be a DHCP client, they can be a web server, they've got a browser built in, they've got a CLI built in. So they're very useful and very easy to set up. So with this topology in mind, in the next video, I'll walk you through the actual implementation in the interface for EVE-NG to make it happen. So I'll see you in that next video in just a moment. Meanwhile, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.